So today we're talking about the buyer client service conveyor belt. Now that's kind of a mouthful, and here's what I want to kind of convey. Your client experience, the experience your client has when they go from first meeting you all the way to closing escrow, that is, whether or not you like to say it, that's a conveyor belt. And if it's messy in certain places or maybe a step was skipped, your conveyor belt's broken. Now, if you have never experienced the conveyor belt, let me tell you what it looks like. Who here has a car? Raise your hand or unmute yourself and let me know if you have a car. And you know what? Tell me what kind of car you drive.
A Tesla.
Tesla? Okay, very nice. Who else drives a certain car? This isn't a bragging time either. I don't care what kind of car you drive. I just want to hear if you're driving a
Mercedes
car or not.
Benz. Mercedes
Mercedes
Benz.
Benz. Okay, very nice. Mercedes Benz. What else do we have? Who else drives a car and what kind of car is it? We'll take it. We'll take the two. Tesla, Mercedes Benz, and I drive a Toyota Tacoma. Now, is there any chance that if Michelle pulls up to a stoplight and another Mercedes Benz, same color, same make, same model, same year, right next to her, is there a chance that that other Mercedes Benz just accidentally is missing a door? Very unlikely. Is there a chance that Tammy's Tesla, when it pulls up next to another Tesla, same make, same model, same year, same everything, that car they just accidentally put on a different steering wheel? The answer is no, because Tesla, Mercedes, Toyota, BMW, whatever car you drive was made in a systematic fashion. They started with essentially nothing, and that vehicle moved through an assembly line and it was put together exactly the same as all the other makes and models and years of that same vehicle. There is no chance that, oh, that's weird, my Tesla is missing a window. It's brand new, but they forgot to put the steering wheel on. No way. That would never happen. And I think a really cool example is my wife and I got to backpack through Europe as our pre-honeymoon. And we had to stop at McDonald's in Spain. I think it was in Spain. We got McDonald's there. Now, there's a few slight differences, and I think McDonald's does that on purpose because regionals have different tastes, but the burger was the same. How amazing is that? How amazing is that? I can go down the street here and get a chicken nuggets, a Happy Meal from McDonald's, and I can also go to Spain and get a Happy Meal, and it's the same exact thing. I'll tell you how. It's because there's a conveyor belt of services. And it's so good that even when some nerdy 20-year-old that's never had a job before can create a perfect In-N-Out burger because they've been taught to do it exactly the same way. Well, now here's what I want you to do. I want you to think of your business as the same exact concept. Your clients should experience the same Tammy on day one as they do on day 31. When Mike closes escrow with one buyer, 3 months later, when he closes escrow with another buyer, it should be the exact same process. Okay? Now, is the client going to be the same? No. Is the escrow going to be the same? No. But there should be incredible similarities between escrow number 1 and escrow number 31. So, I want you to start thinking of your business like a conveyor belt. It is a clear, repeatable path from first encounter all the way to close of escrow. Okay, so let's talk about what the full conveyor belt is, and we're only going to talk about a few of them today. So the first full step is the first encounter. Now, what does that look like? Well, that could be door knocking. It could be cold calling an expired. It could be reconnecting with somebody that you used to know a lifetime ago. It could be an open house where you meet somebody for the first time. The second step of the conveyor belt is to send something of value to that client. The third step is the buyer consultation. And the fourth step is going on tour as a buyer. Now, we're only going to talk about these first 3 to 4 steps, but here's what I want us to look at. Who here, and I really want you guys to unmute yourself if you can, who here has experienced in their business step number 1 of the conveyor belt?
Me,
Yep, good. Tammy has.
I, Michelle.
Michelle, okay. Anyone else?
No, I have.
Okay, perfect. Oh, Danielle's coming back in. So it's a trick question, right? You've all experienced step 1. You've all encountered somebody for the first time or a refresher since it's been a long time. Like, let's say you know somebody from a previous, from college, or from you used to live on the West Coast or East Coast, and now you're reconnecting with them. That's a first encounter all over again because now you're in a different space. So we've all experienced the first encounter. Now, question: who here is guilty of going from step 1, the first encounter, to trying to go for step 4 of sending them properties and going on tours with them? Who here is guilty of that?
Does it count at an open house or doesn't count?
The first encounter is the open house.
Uh-huh, that one.
Okay. And then who here is guilty of saying, hey, you know what? Let's go look at some other houses. Who's guilty of going straight to buyer tours?
I think after open house, I texted people, follow up, and I think I did mention looking at other property.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100%. Nearly every agent is guilty of going, hey, nice to meet you. Let's go look at some homes. You skipped over a fourth of your conveyor belt. I hate to say it, I hate to put it this way, but that's going to be one crappy burger at the end of that. Now, why? Because you've gone straight into a transactional arrangement. And when it's purely transactional, guess what they're going to do? They're going to treat you like any other agent. They're going to try to cut your commission. They're going to talk to multiple agents at the same time. They're not going to see any value in you. And by the way, I want you to really think to yourself. Think to yourself through your process. And look, you didn't know any better probably, and that's okay, but now we're learning. You had your first encounter and you most likely said, "Hey, I have some other properties I'd love to show you. Let's meet next Tuesday and look at them." You skipped the item of value. You skipped the buyer consultation and you went straight to buyer tours. And you expect them to be a loyal buyer to you? Why would they?
Gabe,
You're
what
acting
is
like
number?
Google.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So sorry about that. What is number 2 again? Can you explain that?
We're going to get into each of these steps. Don't you worry.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted us to see from a 30,000-foot view how we go from step 1 and we love to jump to step 4.
I have a
Okay.
question.
So, yeah, sure.
I didn't skip 2 and buyer consultation, but this client showed up at an open house that I was hosting. So, but I've been working with this person, talking to them, the buyer consultation, and all of that. So, did I skip from step 1 to step 4? But I haven't even shown. It's just one condo that I've shown them. I haven't even. I've told them that I have to sign a BRBC before I can even show you any other properties if you're not able to purchase this property.
Okay, so ask that in a question so I can understand it. What's the question?
So the client showed up. That's the first
Hmm.
encounter.
Okay.
Sh- Me and her have been talking about this condominium and what she wanted to offer. She got pre-approved 3 days ago, and I told her I need to sign a BRBC with you. So I've done the buyer
Hmm.
consultation, but I haven't done a
So
buyer tour.
time out. So you sat her down and walked her through your buyer presentation?
Yes,
When was that?
that I didn't sit down to her face to face, but I did send her
Okay, well,
uh, photographs of here's when you meet me. The next phase is for us to sit down and have a buyer consultation before I could represent you as an agent. And these are the steps that we need to take from beginning to closing. So did I
okay,
skip
but
and go to buyer
yeah,
tours?
wait, yeah, because you didn't have a true sit down buyer consultation with her.
But I've been engaging with her for the past 3 weeks while she's trying to get pre-approval.
I understand that, but did you have a sit down buyer consultation with your client?
No.
So and that's where the professionalism, we have to make them slow down and meet with us. That's why it has to be, because look at an agent, sorry, not an agent, a buyer is going to want to treat you as a transaction. They're not going to want to connect. You have to pull that out of them with the buyer consultation. You need to send them an item of value. So we're going to get into that. So yeah, Mike, you did in a different way. You did skip step two and three.
Skip. Yeah.
Um, so
Okay.
so why this matters, and this we're going to get into this. So why does this matter? Why is it so important that we go through these steps? Well, number one is the clients need some clarity. They need confidence and they need to see clear direction throughout the transaction. Even if a client says, I know how this works, I guarantee you, when you slow them down and you walk them through this process, they're going to see the value in it. Okay. Now, and by the way, this is pertaining to the entire conveyor belt. Now, you guys need to follow this for your own sake. Because if a deal falls apart, or this happens all the time, people say, we were looking at properties. Like I showed them 40 properties and they just ended up canceling the contract with me. And now they're going out and looking with a different agent. And they're so baffled by it. They're like, how could they do this to me? Well, did you send them an item of value? Did you do a true buyer consultation with them? Or did you just say, here's some properties, let's go shopping? Well, there you go. You didn't have a really deep relationship with this client. So the reason why this is so important is because it's going to create a consistency and a structure for you, the agent. Not to mention that it's going to make you follow a process. Look, even if let's go back to the McDonald's analogy. If a 19-year-old starts working at McDonald's and they're like, no, I know how to make a burger. I know how to make a burger. The manager should say, I don't care how you make a burger. This is how we make a burger here. Follow the steps. If you follow the steps, the result will be a delicious product. In real estate, I don't care what your process is. If you follow these steps, you will end up with loyal and happy clients. And then notice here the result is more trust. We just said that. Better conversion. If you can consistently get people through this process, you will most likely get closings more often than without. Okay. So the first encounter, let's talk about this. Now, first of all, the purpose is to build trust and open the door to the next conversation. Okay, now what does a first encounter look like? We just talked about this. It could be a phone call. It could be an introduction for a referral. It could be an open house information conversation. Sorry. It could be a social media interaction. They could DM you and say, "Hey, I saw that you went on that broker caravan. Man, that house in South Pass was gorgeous." That is what a first encounter looks like. Now, I'll tell you right now, this one kind of jumps out at me, referral introduction, because here's what I've been guilty of, if I'm being honest. Somebody has referred me their cousin. Now, I got a referral. I got a referral. I don't need to do any of these steps. Let's just open escrow, baby. I just encountered you, but it's a referral, so you already trust me. Let's jump to some offers, man. Let's do this thing. And then it falls apart. And I think to myself, I skipped some steps. Even though you were a referral and you already knew about me, you already saw my success, I still didn't send you an item of value. I still didn't do a buyer consultation. So everyone falls into this trap, which is why it's so important to understand how it works. Okay. So now send item of value. Here we go, guys. This is where it's going to take a little bit of work. The purpose of the item of value is to do a lot of things, but it's all the same concept. It's to provide something useful, relevant, and memorable. And the phrasing that I want to get you to this point to where you say, I have this item of value that is burning a hole in my pocket. I've got to get this to as many people as possible. To the point where you say, hey, I have this fill in the blank. I have this buyer's guide that has helped so many people. I'd love to get this to you. What's your best contact information? And I think I was talking to Michelle or I was talking to somebody about this. I said, let's pretend you're doing an open house on a Saturday and a buyer comes through and you introduce yourself and you have your first encounter. And then what do you do after that? Most people send them listings. And yeah, they'll try to call them and follow up with them. But what if that buyer went to 10 other open houses? Now they're probably getting 10 different emails of the same homes and 10 different phone calls from agents saying, I sent you listings. Isn't that valuable? No, it's not valuable at all. I can go on Zillow and see that. Not only that, you're one of 10 emails that I'm getting constantly. Unsubscribe. But what if out of those 10 agents, 9 of them send them the same listings, try to call them, try to email them, but one agent sends them an email that says, hey, here's that buyer guide I was telling you about. Who's going to stick out of those 10 agents? The buyer guide, the buyer's guide. Okay. Now, notice there's no wrong to this. There's a buyer roadmap. There's a home buyer's guide. There's a financing checklist. I don't know if you should do that one. And then there's just a custom one that you can build. And before you ask, Gabe, what's mine? Go find it. Figure out what you think is valuable. We have so many on Canva, you can Google any buyer guide and just customize it to you. And that is your item of value. Now, before we move on, is there any confusion on the item of value, guys?
Could
Because I
item
would
of
argue this is the biggest missing step. Go ahead, Tammy.
sorry about that. Um, could I, okay, for value that I give them, can I give them like a home valuation sheet of their own home?
Well, assuming this is a buyer,
Oh, a buyer.
so
Okay.
this won't be relevant.
Okay.
Although I will say you should have one of each. You should have an item of value for a buyer and an item of value for a seller. Now, should it be a home valuation? Well, again, out of 7 agents that maybe they talk to, how many of them are doing a CMA for their house?
What is CMA?
They all are.
Comparative market analysis, a home
Oh,
valuation.
they
And
all
Mike is
are.
correct. They all are. They all are. So how are you going to be unique? Now, that doesn't mean you don't still do one, but that's not going to stick out, right? If you're a buyer, you're getting tons of MLS emails from all these agents. All of them are thinking they're doing something special. They're not. If you're a homeowner, you're getting all kinds of CMAs from all kinds of agents. They all think they're doing something unique, and they're not. Does
Yeah,
that
none of
mean you
those things
don't?
are unique at all. I mean,
Does,
I agree with
does
you.
that mean you're? Does that mean you're still not sending them listings when it's time? No, you're still going to do that eventually. Does that mean you're not doing CMAs for the homeowners? No, you're still going to do that eventually. But the first item of value has to be something that you have your fingerprints on.
Okay, so
Something that Philip or Mike are willing to say, hey, I have this home buyer's guide that people absolutely love. I'd love to send it to you. What's your best contact information?
But isn't that better? I mean, what I do is, well, what I've been doing is I've been asking them, what is your experience buying a home? And accordingly, I send my specific buyer's guide because some of them don't have a clue, but
oh,
some of them
Most of them
have,
don't have a clue.
but some of them do have some experience from the past. So there's no point for me to sit down and tell them, hey, the first thing is you need to meet with me. Second thing is we need to have a consultation. The third thing is we need to have a
Well,
BRBC conversation.
you're skipping the item of value.
Yeah, yeah, which
Okay,
which is by itself is a challenge.
everyone here needs to work on the item of value. Okay, you need to have something unique to send them.
okay, Gabriel.
Um,
Sorry.
yep.
Okay, sorry.
Hello.
Is this okay to send? Like, let's say, I asked them, oh, so what are the main factors in your home search? And then they say, oh, kids' education is very important to me. So, sh can I like make my own list after research? What schools are best for, let's say, like middle school, and then send it to them?
If you do that, and this is the trap, if you try to create a custom thing for every single person you meet, you're not
Uh,
going to do it. You're not going to do it. I
um,
would recommend that maybe you have a few items of value that are ready to go. Best schools, best
oh,
restaurants, home buyer's guide in general, home buyer's guide in this market. I mean, you should have a folder of a few things you can send people.
oh, I see.
Um,
Okay,
so
okay.
okay, so let's keep going, guys. We're almost out of time. So now here's why this is important. Because if your item of value is actually valuable, then you could say, hey, when I send this, I'd love to review it together, AKA face to face. I need to get face to face with you. If you are in a text only conversation or a phone only conversation, that does not count. So if you meet somebody at an open house and from then on it's only texting and phone calls, that is not a client. You need to slow them down and get into a face to face meeting. They need to feel like you are a professional. You just gave them an item of value and now you're going to review it together.
Which that by itself is a challenge to get them to
It
meet with you.
is. It is. And if you're not able to get people to meet with you, number one, your item of value probably isn't very good. And number two, your scripting probably needs work. Okay. But that is the key is actually getting in meetings and getting appointments. We've said this since day one. The number one metric that we need to check is appointments. If
Yeah.
you've been at this for 2 years and you've only had two appointments, as far as I'm concerned, you've only had two at bats. If you show me a new agent and they've got 10 appointments, like 10 one-on-one physical appointments, I will tell you that agent is going to be a millionaire. So, what the best agents do is you're going to walk through it together. Okay. You're going to build that momentum with them. Okay. You're going to sit down and say, hey, I'd love to get together. and go over this. And by the way, we're going to do a buyer consultation in the meantime. Notice how we kind of combined those two things. Because look, if I'm being honest, maybe somebody doesn't want a consultation. Or maybe they're like, I've done this before. I don't want to deal with this. No, thank you. Okay, but we're going to go over the item of value and do a buyer consultation. So there's two reasons to meet. And now, why is the buyer consultation important? Number one, that's the appointment. That's what we've been talking about. That is the actual appointment. And you're going to clarify everything. This is where the big questions come through. This is where it's what is important to you about owning a home? Could it be possible? Just imagine, right? This is where the role play comes out of you. And unfortunately, some agents never practice the role play. So by the time they get the buyer consultation, it's a little too late to practice. The buyer consultation, that practice is in role play. So if somebody says, will you lower your fees? Or why should I hire you? Or they hit you with any of those, oh, well, I've actually been practicing this every single week at role play. So I'm not afraid of this. But now the worst thing to do is to get 3 buyer consultations, have no practice, and because you didn't really do well in the buyer consultation, it doesn't equal an agreement signed. Because the goal of the buyer consultation is you're going to clarify the goals with the buyer. You're going to set expectations. You're going to review the timeline, and you're going to get a buyer agreement signed. If you, and I'm going to go back to the very beginning. If you're doing this at a high level, look, first encounter, you don't know me from Adam, nice to meet you. And then immediately it's, hey, I got something really valuable I want to show you. And we can go over it together at the buyer consultation. We go over it together. Now they trust me. They see that I know what I'm talking about. Now, when we go on buyer tours with a signed agreement and trust built, do you see how it's so much less likely that that client's going to cheat on me? But what do? We go from a first encounter and we jump straight to buyer tours. We skipped all this value and personal time. We didn't meet with them face to face. We didn't have a cup of coffee. We didn't see the look in their eyes. They didn't see the looks in our eyes. And yet we sit here and we're like, I can't get anything to close. I can't get any agreements signed. Well, you're skipping 2 of the 4 steps. And if you were to say, well, they don't want to do it, well, you need to make them, because again, going back to the McDonald's manager, if a 19-year-old says, I don't want to do this, well, then you're not meant to work here, right? This is a professional setting. This is what we have to do, okay? Let's see.
That happened to me when, Gabe, that happened to me with this client where she wanted to see other properties. And I brought up, we need to sit down and have this conversation and go over a BRBC agreement. And she's like, wait, what is that? And I'm like, well, before I could even show you any other properties, I need to explain to you what a BRBC is, and then we need to come down and agree on this before I could show you any other properties.
Right. And by the way, guys, this is the litmus test. If you're, and I'll always use investors kind of as an example, but an investor very rarely wants to sign an agreement. You don't want to work with that investor. We need to come to terms with the fact that not everybody is meant to be a client. Some of them are really trying to burn you. And this process prevents that from happening. But this is why you need to have so many. If you have 10 appointments and 3 of them are absolute scammers, well, then who cares? Get rid of them, work with the other 7. But when you only have 1 client that you have all of your emotion into, well, that's kind of tough, right? That's why we need to have a lot of these. Okay, sorry, we're actually past time. So let's just do a quick review. Here are the 4 steps at a glance. First encounter, sending an item of value. You're going to review it together. In a perfect world, that's going to be done at the buyer consultation. The end of the buyer consultation should result in a signed agreement. If you don't have the buyer consultation, you didn't have an appointment. If you didn't meet with somebody in person, you did not have an appointment, and you should not expect that this person's going to be loyal to you. All right, so why isn't it letting me skip? There we go. So we will get into the other steps. Let's go here all the way to the beginning. So we will get into these other steps, but if I'm being honest, guys, the buyer tour, the offers, all this stuff is kind of after. If you don't get these first two steps going, none of this even applies. Okay. So let's go to the very end because we're out of time. Here's your next step, guys. Number one is you're going to refine your first encounter. How good are your scripts, guys? This is where we do role play. You're going to build your item of value. I don't think you should build it from scratch. I think you should find one that you like, that you believe in, make a few adjustments, and then use that. This is a time trap, though. Do not spend too long building your item of value, okay? And then start practicing your buyer consultation with people, okay? Any questions, guys, with this conveyor belt concept? I love this idea because it really gets, it's easy to coach. If somebody's meeting, if an agent's meeting with me and they're saying things like, I'm meeting with people, but I'm not getting the agreement signed, then that tells me their buyer consultation is broken. If somebody's getting a lot of first encounters, but they're not getting to the item of value and they're not getting to the buyer consultation, well, their item of value and their scripts at the first encounter probably is not very good. So we can go in and fix it. That's the beauty of a conveyor belt, is you can kind of pick it apart and see what needs to be fixed. Just the same, by the way, if I have an agent that has a great step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but they're opening escrow, but they're not closing escrow, they probably need some coaching in their contracts. If I see somebody that has lots of closings, but no referrals or repeat business, well, their post-closing, like how they nurture clients after they close escrow, probably needs work. So that's kind of the beauty of this, is as a conveyor belt, you are able to dissect what's going on in your business, and we can kind of figure it out from there. Okay. Any questions, guys? We went way over time. Any questions?
Gabriel, so do I need to do these steps if it's like a close family friend or close family or close friend?
Yes, 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 and yes.
So last time I
Because they
spoke,
don't see you, they don't see you as a professional.
okay, so
They
last time
see you as, go ahead.
sorry. Last time I spoke to you, it was my dad's friend. He's a close family friend. He's from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And then I barely spoke to him. And then after I spoke to you, you told me, oh, he needs a BRB signed. And then I asked him, and then he got scared, and then he just shied away. But I didn't send
Yeah,
him a
honestly,
value.
we probably saved you from somebody that was going to take advantage of you.
Oh, okay. So when it comes to close friends, we don't have to do all that.
No, hold on. You didn't hear what I said. You need to do that every time.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need
Okay.
to, because if somebody sees you as the Tammy, oh, I remember you when you were in diapers. Well, guess what? They don't see you as a professional. So they're going to
Oh,
treat you like that. When you make them stop and have a consultation with them, oh, wow, Tammy's grown up. This is okay. This is the real deal.
okay.
And that's happened to me multiple times because my brother and I, we're the youngest in our whole family. So all
Uh,
of my cousins are in their 50s. So when I talk to my cousins, I tell them, hey, I'm putting on my real estate hat right now. Meaning, hey, stop looking at me like the little kid that broke the window of grandma's house. And I
uh,
need you to see me as the real estate agent. So we're going to do a buyer consultation. I'm going to answer any questions that you may have.
okay, so I messed up by not giving them a value, reviewing it, and then not giving them a consultation. I just asked, what's your budget, and I'll send you listings.
Yep, you went straight into transaction, which, Tammy, I'll tell you right now, that's going to be your trap, because even in role play, you really like to jump right into the transaction, and that's going to
Okay.
get you burned a lot. Yeah.
Okay. I'll be
Slowing
more
slowing
careful.
down Yeah, you know what? The phrase that I want you to remember is slow down for you.
Okay.
And by the way, there are agents in this office where the phrase for them is speed up. They spend too much time lovey-dovey and they don't talk business. So everyone's different. Everyone is going to have a slight bent either direction.
Okay.
Some agents are like immediately like, what are you looking for? Where are you looking for it? How much do you have? What's your budget? And they go right into the transaction. And I tell those people, slow down. Other people, we've had 2 lunches, but we haven't even talked about real estate yet. Oh, you need to speed up a bit. You need to get that going because right now they don't see you as an agent. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
good.
That's really good advice.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let me know if you need anything. Mike, give me a call in about an hour. Oh, here's already gone. Man, he's quick. See you guys. Have a good weekend. Let me know if you have any questions, okay?